Greetings, fellow members of the Esoteric Order of Gamers. What's this beautiful looking thing? Well, it's a printed game mat from Deep Cut Studio, and we're going to be having a look at a couple of their gaming mats in this video. Okay, well, full disclosure time here. I actually contacted Deep Cut Studio because I was looking for a temporary transportable mat that I could use for my miniature wargaming. And I had a look online and I thought theirs looked like one of the best. So I contacted them for a review copy, and I ended up actually buying one, which is the 6 foot by 4 foot one you'll see here, and they threw in another one which I'm using for Star Wars X-Wing, and I'll show you that in a moment. But first, let's get started with this one. Now, the thing about Deep Cut Studios is that you can actually contact them to modify the textures. The original texture that this one had a big road going through the middle, and I didn't like that road. I just wanted a grey background which I could use and put my own terrain on. So I asked them, can they take that out? And they said sure, and they did. And for a small additional charge they changed the artwork and they printed this off and they sent it to me all the way from Lithuania down here to New Zealand. So let's have a look at this a little bit closer. One thing I like about this mat is that they've put a very subtle logo on it, and it's very small. If there's one thing I can't stand, it's a gaming mat with a huge company logo on it. Now I understand they want to put their logo on it, but they've kept it very subtle and small, and I appreciate that. The other thing is that you'll see it's quite thin. It's actually quite sturdy. I've unrolled it here, and you can see it's laying quite flat, which is great. And I think this will stand up to some good solid use. Now let's have a look at the texture itself, which looks great. I think the only room for improvement is perhaps the different resolutions of these textures. They don't quite blend together perfectly, but otherwise it's very impressive and certainly looks great from the usual standing distance. Right, let's have a look now at the Deep Cut Studios mat with some terrain on it. I've just put on some of my random bits of terrain here, and you can see that it's a very textured surface, and it certainly adds a lot of visual interest to my game. Now, of course, my pieces of terrain here aren't necessarily matched to the background, but as a roll up and take with you solution, I think this is really good. Now, my personal choice would be to go for something a little bit darker, but of course Deep Cut Studios have a whole range of different mats on their website, and you obviously will go with what suits your game. You might be playing a fantasy game with a more traditional grassy texture, and of course they have something like that on their website. They have lava, they have all kinds of different things, science fiction and fantasy themed. But I certainly think this lifts the board quite a bit. Even though this has been rolled up in a tube for quite a while, I just put some books on there for a little bit, and you can see it's flat down on the edge there, and it's just sitting on my 6 by 4 foot table beautifully. Okay, let's have a look at the next one, and this is a Starfield mat, and I'm using it for Star Wars X-Wing. Wow, look at that! Pretty impressive. This one is 3 feet by 6 feet. I got the larger size because I've got the large ships, and I'll show you those on this in a moment. So we can use this for the big scenarios that use the large ships. And isn't it beautiful? Look at this. Now, I really appreciate this map. I think the texture on this one is great. And the reason is that it's quite subtle. Most of the starfield is dark, shows the stars. You've got the suggestion of a nebula going through here. It's not overwhelming the game. I've seen a lot of gaming mats for Star Wars X-Wing, and some of them just have too much going on in the background. I think personally that distracts from the game. So let's have a look at this one with some figures on. And there it is. Doesn't it look fantastic? Now, because it's a dark surface and it's slightly glossy, it does reflect lights here in the studio a little bit, and I've turned the studio lights off so you don't get those hot spots, but you won't have that problem when you're playing a game. All you'll see is this fantastic space surface over which your ships will be battling. So there you have it, folks. A quick look at these two great gaming mats from Deep Cut Studio. I think the space one here is absolutely spot on. I'm really happy with it. But that's only one of many products that Deep Cut Studio have available on their website, deepcutstudio.com. And I really recommend you go and have a look. If you're looking for a temporary, transportable gaming surface, if you don't want to go to all the trouble of building your own terrain, which I'll be doing in an upcoming video, it is the perfect solution for adding some zing to your miniatures gaming. So check them out. I hope you've enjoyed this video and see you next time.